Let's get him up." Loveday Fitztalbot stood, holding his aching lower back, and watched Tebb and Thorpe take hold of the knight's limbs and yank. He clapped his hands to encourage his men. "Come on, boys. It might be someone who matters." The knight was lying face down, trampled so heavily he was half buried in the earth. Dead. He had been a big, barrel-chested man. Now he was a sprawled, broken mess, his body mangled by feet and hooves and pressed deep into the churned mud of the field. The plate armor on his back was crushed, and in places it had split. The surcoat bearing his insignia of arms, which in life had identified him, was tattered and bloodied beyond recognition. The archers heaved. "He's stuck," complained Tebb. "We'd be better off digging the bastard out." Thorpe let go of the knight's leg for a moment and gave the dead man an angry kick. "Tebb's right, we'll never move him," he said. He puffed out his cheeks. "Let's just cut that rag off him and send it to the king's men so they can work out who he was. Then we can move on." Loveday said nothing. He understood his men's frustration. They were all sore, hungry, dirty, bloody, thirsty, and worn out. He handed Thorpe his flask. The dark-haired bowman grunted thanks, then drank deeply. He swallowed a couple of times, spat out half a mouthful of the murky liquid, and scrunched up his face. "Water?" "Aye," said Loveday. "That's all they're giving out for now. Ale's gone." Thorpe shrugged, resigned. "We'll be back in England soon enough. Thank fuck. Plenty of ale there." He shielded his eyes from the late summer sun and glared around the field. Everywhere, groups of men just like them were picking over corpses, removing anything valuable before the bodies were dragged away feet first for burial in long pits. There were thousands of them. All had fallen in a battle that took place there 2 days earlier, beside a vast, dense, dark green forest called Calais. The 6 Essex Dogs had fought in the thick of that battle. Now they sorted and pilfered its dead. Thorpe turned back to the knight and booted him again, though with less force than before. Tebb put his hand on his friend's shoulder. "Come on," he said. "One more go. No point giving up. He could have something good on him." Tebb flicked his long grey plait of hair over his shoulder. It was stiff with dried sweat and blood. He re-gripped the knight's right arm. Thorpe sighed and grabbed the right leg. The 2 men heaved again, bending their knees, digging their heels into the uneven ground and straining until the veins sprang on their foreheads. With a sucking noise, the knight began to lift, but his left arm was thrown out awkwardly behind him, and once the archers had him half-turned, Tebb slipped, and the knight flopped back down onto his front. Loveday felt a heavy trudge behind him and turned to see Scotsman arrive. The gruff-tempered giant was one of Loveday's oldest comrades and friends, although in size and temper, the 2 men were very different. Today, despite the chill in the air, Scotsman stood stripped to the waist, showing off a broad torso that was badged with bruises. He grinned as he considered the knight on the ground and the archers panting beside him. Then he picked a few scabs of grime from the rancid, greasy ropes of his ginger beard. "Christ, stinking loincloth," he said. "You fuckers are making hard work of this." A Scotsman groomed his beard. Loveday noticed the big man's fingers, which sprouted with orange hair and were as thick as most men's thumbs. Each bore several glinting gold or silver rings. The Scot had been scouring the battlefield for trinkets. Scotsman saw Loveday looking. He turned his hands to show off his haul. "Plenty worth selling, next town we visit," Loveday said. "God knows we need something to take home with us." "Aye, that we do. I've got nearly 2 dozen here. We're going to be rich enough to spend the whole winter in a whorehouse." The Scot chuckled and turned his attention to Tebb and Thorpe, who were still struggling with the half-buried knight. "Move over, you flea-bitten English bastards," he said. The archers stepped back, exhausted. Scotsman took hold of the dead man with one hand and heaved. Within seconds he had flipped the corpse and dropped it on its back. "Easy," he laughed. Behind him, Thorpe threw his hands up in exasperation. "Baptist bollocks, Scotsman, we did all the hard work and you just stroll in and—" But as he looked down at the knight, he tailed off.